sit down here.
Hi, everybody. This is Stan Hickish. He is a musician and my friend, and he wants to introduce himself.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm Stan. I'm a musician, as Owen said. I'm up here on a hill just a little bit off of Brighton, getting some space, soaking up the sun, got the wind in my back.
Brighton's like the creative sort of San Francisco of the UK, sort of like this coastal southern town known for having a lot of LGBT stuff going on, a lot of creative stuff, loads and loads of bands, musicians, small businesses, a lot.
I think it's the gay capital of Europe, and it's one of the only cities that has a green MP.
Green Party MP.
They're very vegan and right on and forward-thinking.
The only one in the UK. Yeah.
So yeah, more about myself, I guess. A musician from birth. My family, my parents were teachers, so I've got a bit of that kind of like energy in me, and I like collaborating with people. I love talking with lots of different people. Me and Owen have some really good conversations whenever we meet up, often talking for longer than we initially planned, so we'll see how timely this podcast is, but
yeah, almost
but we get into some deep conversations, and I really enjoy talking to you, actually, so I'm excited to do this. 100%. You built the anticipation in our little pre chat, so I got some energy going, so
yeah, awesome. I want to ask you about, I didn't actually know that both your parents were teachers, but I'd like to know what that influences in terms of, just before we went live, we were talking a little bit about education. I don't know if you want to hit the ground with talking about that, but
yeah, that's cool. That's fine. Yeah. So I guess our current education in the UK is a bit stale and like probably needs a bit of a renaissance in ways. You know, I was just watching a video by a good thinker at the moment. He's an American guy, but he was talking about how schools are a bit sort of like a bit inefficient, or very inefficient, and like a bit slave-like as well.
Well, I've got something to add to that.
Yeah, go on.
Is that we have what's called the Prussian education system, and the whole idea was it was actually based on the army. So that's why all the kids wear uniforms and they stand or they sit down at desks in rows, and they all obey the teacher. It's actually to prepare people for joining the army. And then in Scotland, in about 1800 and something, I don't know, I just made that up. It could have been before. The Scottish came up with, well, we don't really need to prepare people for the army anymore. So how about we prepare them for the factories? And so
good accent.
Thank you. I've been watching the thick of it.
Nice. Okay, perfect. Yeah.
Peter Capaldi channeled.
Yeah.
Channeled in my fucking mouth. He swears a lot in that show. So the bell, the dinging of the bell, is supposed to train you for the end of shift and the beginning of your shift in the factory.
Right.
So that sounds messed up in today's digital economy.
And I think when people get into a bit of higher education, there's like a gold star, or like a badge of honor in like the suffering of it and working these insane hours. Waking up, doing 8 hours of education, doing like all the homework as well, and it's almost, you could compare it to some kind of like slavery to like the system. And I mean, there's so much to sort of discuss about the education stuff that's going on, like but an interesting point about the slavery thing, I think, is maybe it feels more that way for the people who aren't that way inclined. You know, I don't know if that's just because of the kind of neurospicy category that I I belong to. But
Narrow spicy.
some people do need that kind of like regimented training and lifestyle to sort of feel safe and to feel like comfortable and like they're on track. I think me and you might share that more creative, like risk taking.
I was going to say
Yeah.
autodidactic, like self-taught. I mean, I was reflecting, I don't know, recently about how I kind of acquired different skills that I've got, where whether it's software or music stuff or languages that I've learned, and I've kind of settled on the idea that actually pretty much everything that I know really, really deeply is self-taught. And everything that I just know kind of like a little bit of, I know a bit of it, I learned it from school that's useful, but the things I know really deeply are self-taught things. I don't know what you think about that. How does that
No, that's
measure up
good.
with?
Yeah, I mean, I've struggled a bit with in my life trying to teach people things that I knew to be true. Maybe I wasn't even acting on very much myself, and I think that might relate a little bit to what you said in that it's like a lot of learning is like a personal self discovery. I mean, I learn quite well from like watching someone, but then I have to copy it, so it does have to become mine at some point. But I've struggled with trying to like teach people to have really long conversations with friends that have got girlfriend problems or addicts or whatever it is they're struggling with, and it doesn't matter really what you say if they don't make it their own. And so I think it's a
You can
similar
lead a
thing
horse
with
to water.
if you're exactly, and if you're at school and you're just being told stuff, it doesn't matter if you get it right once in a test. Like I got a GCSE C grade in German, and I only know one phrase because
What's that?
after darf ich bitte meine Jacke ausziehen?
Oh my god, very
Which
good. May I take
I
off
mean,
my blazer?
I'm good at the accent apparently, but
Sehr
yeah, oh
gut.
yeah. Wait, you knew what that was?
Darf ich is may I, bitte, please. Meine Jacke is like it's not this, it's this that you can't see. Sorry, it's like a blazer rather than a jacket. And ausziehen, ziehen means to move, and aus means like is like this motion. Like
No way.
outwards.
I had no idea you knew German.
I do know German, yes.
That's
German
quite good.
is like my second language, really. German, you see, I did learn German in school, but I dare say I learned more from listening to Rammstein and German bands, like a lot, you know, and learning what the lyrics were, because they talk in kind of a poetic way. So I really had to learn to, like, what does that actually mean? And figure out stuff. And I remember, this is bad, actually. What I'm about to say, for me, was a bit of an indictment of the education system, at least to some extent, where I found out about a grammatical concept called cases, where a word might look just to slightly not dumb it down, but you know how there's masculine and feminine in some languages. Well, German has masculine, feminine, and neuter, and sometimes in some contexts, the feminine words look masculine in that they have the masculine word that goes with them to make them masculine, like der. And actually, this is because there are not four masculine, feminine, plural, neuter, not 4 ways of saying the, but there are actually 16 ways of saying the. Because you know how I can say I, and then you might look at me, but me and I, do they mean something different? They kind of don't. They just mean I/me. And if something is mine, that is of me, so it's a little bit of a different word, but really I, me, and mine all refer to me. They're all the same word. German has this kind of thing where there are 3 words for the same thing. There's actually 4 for everything, for like a table and a chair and a door and a computer screen and everything. And I told my teacher that I'd figured this out, that I'd learned this online, and she looked at me like I just, like, I don't know, I just said something really offensive or something. Like, that is not the order in which we are supposed to be learning things. And I'm like, but I figured this out, and German makes way more sense to me now, because I understand why this word looks feminine when you told me it was masculine. And she had no response. She's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what to say to you. I'm not supposed to tell you what this is yet. We're supposed to do that next year. And it was
that is an odd reaction. I wonder if she was doing the Marge Simpson and staying like one lesson ahead of you, and you actually went too far ahead. You know, she actually doesn't know the language at all.
Could be. Well, she's French. She was a French lady who had learned German, so I only just presumed, like, well, she knows what all this stuff is, and I think she did. She just didn't know how to explain it. But I
remember some strange interactions with teachers like that, where you're actually asking a genuine question. I remember one was about particles and how when water boils, the particles move. And I asked, like, it would stirring the pot move the particles and therefore increase the speed in which they would heat up. And I remember being like, kind of, the teacher was like, don't be silly, like, shut up, kind of thing. And then and it's odd, like, I guess you get it in any profession where people join these professions to exercise power over people, and it did feel like that, but then teaching is hard, so I wouldn't like
some percentage.
Yeah, I was probably being annoying in another way that I didn't, just asking too many silly, like, questions and not just listening and taking it.
What the teacher should have said was, well, yeah, you're adding some amount of energy to the mixture, so it is going to have some kind of difference.
Yeah, but marginal or something. Yeah,
a marginal difference.
I think they said no, and I was like, wait, but you said the particle, I actually had to push, and then after that they were like, okay, well, it might make some difference. Like, they didn't know, like, they didn't have it. And I thought, this is strange to, like, as I felt a lot, I'm sure you had this as well. I felt as a child like I was more aware in some ways than the teacher was of, like, the, like, discrepancies in the curriculum and the like, I would even ask questions because I knew people didn't get it in the class. Because the teacher wasn't doing well, I was sort of like helping the teacher teach better by going, like, I thought of something in my mind, like, everyone's probably thinking this, and I would say it, and the teacher would go like, oh, good question, yeah, like, as if they forgot to address this, like, part of the whole. But that was just because my parents were quite good at that kind of Socratic teaching, and that brings us back to the whole personal side of learning that we started this kind of tangent, is that, like, I've got a lot better at asking questions in conversations and relationships to help people just realize things for themselves, like, and actually recently I've done, like, I did a 2-hour-long video to myself, like, speaking as if I was talking to someone, but just spilling, like, therapy. And I realized you don't actually need the other person to say anything. You just need the eye, the lens, the personal, me putting it into words and projecting it to something was all I needed.
Being perceived.
Yeah, and it felt, and I didn't, and as I would keep referring back to, like, how odd it was, I was thinking, like, I don't know who I'm talking to here. Is it myself? I'm probably not going to watch this back, but it feels good to, like, and it was much better than talking to someone, even some of my best friends, that I have, that I really trust. I still would rather have just done that for 2 hours straight than have a 2-hour conversation where I was only talking for an hour.
The right thing to do. Sometimes the right thing to do, like, for example, you might, like, if you've got some kind of traumatic experience, it can be really useful to write that down and maybe even burn it. You can burn it if you really want. Like, that sounds fun.
I think it's a proper hack to the mind to, like, I don't know if we just don't get the time on our own to really think and to express ourselves, or
I think we end up with chaotic associations. We end up with chaotic associations in our head where, say, something traumatic happens, like you're I don't know, when you're little, mum got distracted and you accidentally walked in front of a car and got injured, and you never trusted your mum for ages again or something. That didn't happen to me. I made that up. And like, you know, you might have weird associations with cars and streets, and like leaving your girlfriend's house makes you feel uncomfortable years and years later, and all this kind of stuff that might be in the background. And actually writing down the story helps your brain to figure out what's part of the trauma and what isn't. What's just like a bit of a trigger or something like that. I don't know.
That's great. That's great. I
psychology.
think you're onto something, or we're onto something there. I take credit
I
for
think
that
we are
point.
onto something. I think this is why so many people use ChatGPT to talk to
Yeah.
for therapy, because ChatGPT is not going to judge you if you say you fucking killed a man when you were 15 or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just not. It's a computer program, but it gives us the sense that we're being listened to, because we are being listened to, actually, because it does respond and it does store data. So, you know, it's actually pretty useful. I don't make a habit of that, but I do like ChatGPT voice mode occasionally to just rant and just be like, "What the fuck's this? Why is it happening? Why is it happening? How can I?"
And it gives you, I guess it's accessible, more accessible to people than just speaking to a camera. You'd feel a bit, because I felt foolish. And so yeah, I guess people, it's like a
it takes some getting used to. Talking to a camera takes some getting used to, that's for sure. So not this channel, but my previous channel, which hopefully no one will ever see ever. I actually did quite a lot of the videos speaking to ChatGPT, because I was able to deliver it better, knowing that something was listening to me, rather than just looking straight at the camera. Now I'm fine. Now, whatever, I can go into performance mode and I can deliver the lines. I actually record my videos often like one sentence at a time, to make sure I'm not just reading. The only time I'll go off, I will go off script and start talking spontaneously, and then it might be multiple sentences. But you know, one sentence and then like one visual that goes with it is quite good. But that's not therapeutic. That's, well, actually, sometimes making a video is therapeutic, even though I don't really talk about super personal topics. But it's a different context anyway.
We're doing a lot of consuming in this modern age, and you know, if I feel a bit lonely or bored, I'll watch a video, and that's not always, well, it's just not the best way to get the right feelings. I mean, I feel like I've learned a lot, but it's not there's not that connection. Like our conversation right now is going to feel a lot more important and fruitful than than a one-way video.
Well, you know what? I realized I didn't know the word parasocial at the time, but in like 2016, I realized that the podcast I was listening to was giving me the illusion that I had, not that I did have friends, but give me the illusion that I was hanging out with people, when it's actually just one way. It's a one-way conversation, because whatever I say, they could leave a comment. I could leave a comment, I suppose, but I didn't learn about this word parasocial or the theme of it at all. I didn't know anything about it for like another, I was like 18, for like another few years. But there is something about, like, the Joe Rogan experience especially, I think gives you the sense that you're in the pub with some mates, which is a bit weird, because sometimes it'd be like a nuclear scientist and a quantum computing engineer and the biggest comedian in the world. But it gives you the sense, nonetheless, somehow, kind of magically, that you're hanging out with some mates.
I have a YouTube. I'm not really playing golf at the minute, but I have this YouTube tutorial golf guy that I watch, just because of the camaraderie and the kind of friendliness and the pace of the video is just exactly what I need in that to feel like relaxed. And it's obviously it's like these big green spaces that he's like walking around, so I get that kind of element as well.
Where are you right now again?
So some of the South Downs are over on this hill back here. I'm just along the cliff.
England. To me, that's England.
Yeah. This is England.
This is England. Yeah. Top
Yeah.
ho.
I found myself the highest point for, I don't know, a
You
mile
might be at
maybe.
the highest point, actually, the highest point in the south. And for anyone who
No.
doesn't know, the south of England is very, very flat. Like
Yeah.
if there's no fog and I go about half a mile this way, I'll show you at some point probably. You can just see forever. You can see forever, like
Mm.
flat, 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 and there's no mountain range in the distance or anything like that. It's just mega flat. But then if you go up to Scotland, it's very mountainous, and there'll be
Yeah.
these giant mountains on either side. And the middle of England, sort of the north of England, is sort of in the middle. Like where is the Lake District? It's in the north.
It's like Sheffield.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's the Peak District. Yeah, I think
Peak.
it's more north than that probably.
Yeah.
I don't
I think so
actually
too.
know.
I've never actually been there. It's one of the few places where I haven't been. You went to Wales recently.
Yeah, that was good. I volunteered on a farm with a few hundred sheep, some cows, and some pigs. And
Were they good colleagues?
yeah, they were good. The pigs, one of the pigs had it in for me. It attacked me at one point. So
Okay.
and it actually bit the farm owner's girlfriend's hand.
Oh no.
Yeah, she had her hands behind her back and was facing away from the pig, and it thought there was food in her hand, so it just like
You're not
grabbed
going
her
to turn
hand.
me into bacon.
Yeah, well, I think maybe he's a bit
Welsh. I can't do Welsh.
disgruntled. Well, I didn't, but
Disgruntled swine.
yeah, the farm owner did kill the male pig, and we were eating him. So I wonder if that was
Did you witness
obvious.
that? What was that like, if so?
No, we didn't. But I think you shoot pigs. But with sheep, you slit their throats. But with pigs, I think their skin is like it's too tough to slit their throat, maybe, or not like quick enough. So you shoot them. But
Wow.
we missed the drama of killing a sheep, and we came after the killing of the pig. So we're just enjoying the meat. Yeah.
I must admit, like, I have a really good friend, who says she will not eat any animal that she feels like she couldn't kill herself. And I'm not sure she's ever put that to the test. But like for example, she won't kill a pig, she won't kill a cow, but she's okay with chicken.
I think chickens are the one, really. If you think they can keep your crops clear of bugs and slugs, and they do eggs, and you can use their feathers probably in some capacity in the meat. So they're some of the best animals, I think, for meat production. Yeah, I think chicken's the best meat as well. It's like the leanest meat, so you can eat a lot of it and get a lot of protein. So I think chicken is the one.
It is the circle of life, isn't it? Ultimately, it is like humans specifically have evolved, and there might be some people who think this is controversial, but it really shouldn't be. That humans have evolved to eat cooked meat, specifically cooked meat. That seems to be a part of why the human brain became so much bigger over a short period of time. It seems to be part of why we developed the cognitive revolution and civilization ultimately, because it's so much more dense than eating raw meat, which we no longer, because we have so much energy going to the brain, we no longer have the kind of gut that can process raw meat. So it's kind of a one-way ticket that we pass there, where we can't really
that's true.
eat anymore. But the idea that we should be vegetarians because that's somehow natural, I think that's completely wrong. I'm not saying morally wrong, but factually incorrect. But what do you think about like lab-grown meat and stuff like that? Because I was reading, I have a video called 4 Insane Technologies About to Shock the World. And one of them is 3D printing, because people think that 3D printing is just like, oh, that's how you make, like, I don't know, this or whatever, little plastic stuff. No, you can 3D print organs for people. You can 3D print meat. You can 3D print living tissue at this point, which is kind of messed up and Frankensteinian, but Frankensteinish. That's German for Frankensteinian. And but it's weird. But there's going to be people who argue it's more moral to grow meat or to 3D print meat than it is to kill the animal. And I haven't thought about this very
That's
much.
a difficult. It's multifaceted, isn't it? That question, because you've got the playing God element of it. Is it a living organism? I don't really know. You've got, what's the goal? Is it to eradicate farms and greenhouse gases from cows, or is it to solve world hunger?
Well, I think that they would argue
yeah.
that it's wrong to eat meat that hasn't been 3D printed because you're killing a soul,
Who would argue that?
Vegetarian.
Yeah. So I guess there would be a push for it in that sense. I think it's hard to say whether it would be better or not, but I would just err on the side of caution and not do it. I'd just rather stick to what. If everyone's suddenly much healthier because they're eating this stuff, I'll join the bandwagon, but I'm not going to be the in the trial group.
Yeah, I think that's probably how a lot of people feel. A lot of people, I think, feel, including me, really, like I can feel all the things. I think maybe I don't
all the things.
Yeah, well, I can sort of see where the green. Not saying it's the Green Party, but I can see where people who would say non-lab grown meat is wrong to kill. I can understand that, but I can also understand that we've been eating meat from animals for billions of years or millions and millions of years. And the human animal has really evolved to eat cooked meat specifically.
Yeah.
I can understand both sides of it. It's ambiguous.
You get an imbalance of priority sometimes where people would rather suffer themselves to sort of virtue signal like other suffering, and it's a bit bizarre, isn't it? It's like with the Gays for Palestine thing as well, and I just think that there's like, if we're trying to eradicate suffering, we should start with ourselves and and work out from there.
I actually confronted someone about that who was supporting it, the Gays for Palestine, and they said, well, it's actually about being magnanimous. I know that the transgender person, I know that I can't go to Palestine and expect that I'm going to be treated with respect. I know that, but that doesn't mean that Israel gets to do whatever they want to them. And I thought that was interesting, although they had to admit, and they did admit to me, like, it does seem insane. It seems to make no sense that people who are effectively illegal in Islam, in radical Islam, in Sharia law, would be supporting an Islamic community. It sounds bonkers, but the word that they used was magnanimous, and I thought that was it.
Yeah, I can appreciate the people who like can address the nuances of the movement, but the exclusivity of the group, and I think it's all a bit unnecessary. We should motivate ourselves on like not on our exclusive groups like that. I don't know. It's a bit strange. It's kind of like,
I see what you mean.
I feel like they've just collectively got like too much time on their hands.
Remember when Theresa May was super proud of being the second female prime minister?
Yeah. No, I don't remember that.
Are you talking about stuff like that where people are just like, well, this is my identity and it matters for some reason?
I see. Yeah.
Like, why does it matter if you're gay? Isn't your point that you're for Palestine? Why does it have to be gays for Palestine? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, it's kind of like, I guess extreme things get more traction, and like the more like novel something is as well. So I guess I might play into that a bit, like talking about my life in like these kind of groups I belong to, but and like it's nice to have an identity, but I don't know, it just seemed like a kind of strange, and my emphasis was more on like the kind of like it's just like the priority of the orientation is a bit bizarre. It's like if like maybe like this lab grown meat will like give us all sorts of like problems, and it might cost lots of money, and like
Could be that we don't metabolize it properly long term. Could be that we don't.
yeah.
Who knows? To be honest,
And I guess, but
because
I guess
something
it,
looks the same doesn't make it the same. That's very materialist. Can I just say something? That is
yeah.
that my I don't even want to say identity, but like the the top trumps card of me that says like English, male, heterosexual, white, or whatever. Oh god, all the things that you know should mean that I'm not a left winger or something. But you know, that's funny. But no. But none of that was ever important to me at any point until I went to Argentina. And then it's like, oh, you're the English guy. Like, what's that like? Or like, people are like, oh, I love England
That's
so
true.
much.
Yeah.
I love the Beatles, you know, and like,
Yeah. Tell
people
me
don't speak
about
English to
England.
me, and it's
Yeah.
like it has never ever been important that I'm from Britain.
I guess.
Even in Europe, because I lived in Europe as well. When I lived in Europe, in Vienna specifically, it actually wasn't very important because it was just like fellow Europeans, I guess. Even like I had a good friend from Georgia, the country Georgia, not the American state, and it was just kind of like, okay, well, you know, it's kind of cool it's kind of interesting that you're from Britain. I love the Rolling Stones, but people always mention the music, you know. But like for you know, whatever. But in Argentina, it was like people were a bit more like, whoa, oh my god, you know. It's never been relevant before that, and it's a bit weird. It's a bit weird to have it pointed out, like, oh, you're the English guy.
Yeah. But
But
even I guess we even do
I
that
speak
within.
Spanish too, so maybe I could do videos like white man surprises market stall owner by speaking Argentinian Spanish. You know.
There's a really great duo that have come out recently. I don't know much about their like what their groups they belong to. They're a bit kind of gender fluid, but they're an Argentinian duo that have hit the scene recently. Don't know if you've heard of
Okay.
them.
Who
They've
is
just
it?
done. I think recently they did a Tiny Desk concert, and their name is like Catriel and Poco something other or other, and they've been they did one of the best tiny desks ever. They're from Argentina, which I thought was cool.
Catriel and Paco Amoroso.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, they're really quite cool. They've got a unique style, and their music's
Argentinian
like
music is amazing. I tell you why it's
yeah,
amazing.
it's cool.
Because people will go to gigs en masse because it's a cool thing to do. Like on a Saturday night, people go to rock concerts or well, lots of types of concerts. And that means that there is an absolutely thriving scene of musicians in Argentina that I'm not sure exists in any other country at the moment. Like in Britain, like you go to a small gig in Britain, it's quite rare that the place will be packed, especially if it's not a tiny place. And but in Argentina, it's one of those things where it's just the cool thing to do to go to a gig, and hundreds and hundreds of people will turn up to a small club, which means that there's a really thriving scene of small artists. It's amazing. It's part of the reason I want to go over there.
They must be pretty
the main
proud of
reason
this new band, because they've their first gig in America was Coachella, so that's
Wow.
quite they're definitely probably I think the number one band in Argentina. They've got a tour on at the moment, and I was debating going to Milan just to see them because it's the only non-sold out show.
Wow. When is it?
It's big stadium stuff, like I think it's December. So I was thinking maybe popping there just casually on the plane, and then doing South Africa to see my friend in South Africa. So
I went to Spain spontaneously on my birthday last year. I just went. I bought the ticket the same day and I just went.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah. You can do it. It was like 30 quid. It wasn't very much.
This guy is pretty brave. He's just come up to say hello.
Yeah, I was looking at that.
This metal container here is bizarre. I just stomped on here and the echo went on for so long. I wonder what is. Someone's undone these bolts as well, so I think you can actually go in here. But
What is it?
I don't know. Can you hear it?
Mysterious trapdoor in the middle of Brighton countryside.
Yeah, I don't want to like look in there in case there's like it's a dead body or something.
Yeah. You have no idea.
I could be revealing like it might make the podcast do better, but
Yeah.
maybe not for the best.
Most of the views will come afterwards. That's what typically happens. And on Spotify. So yeah, don't worry about that.
Wales was good. It was quite an interesting experience to be out there. I stayed off my phone for the first week, and I was like, just became a farm guy. I bought myself a gilet, and my friend who came with me was teasing me about the gilet. Every time I did something like a bit like better than him, he'd be like, "Oh, put your gilet on," you know, like you're a better farmer than me, kind of thing.
What was it like working on a farm? That's pretty different.
It was good.
I have another friend who's into farming. In fact, like 3 people are suddenly like hyper focused on farms. Three.
Yeah.
Friends.
It's a gradual thing, like a lot of things in life. Like, you know, I was looking into micro farms. I was following this guy Patrick on YouTube who has this kind of no-till farming technique where he doesn't need to till the land, and he uses like wood chip to stave off the weeds. And it turned out the farmer actually knew that guy and was trying to base his farm off of that kind of model as well. And just all these different, looking at Portugal and their like sustainable growing, and then actually really we wanted to go to Wales to do a bit of mushroom picking like we have for the last 2 years. And we were looking to go out there for longer, so we're trying to work out a way that we could afford to be...
If you're looking for psychedelic mushrooms, you want to go in November.
Well, you'd stand corrected because we found quite a few doses over there, and actually on his farm, so funnily enough. The season starts basically...
the Liberty Cap, the little one.
Yeah, the Liberty Caps are the Welsh ones, really. I mean, you can get the Fly Agaric, but I wouldn't... I can't be bothered to like have to process a mushroom. I found so many of those in Austria. So many Fly Agarics. Amanita muscaria.
Yeah. Those Liberty Caps. It's pretty hard to find a lot of Liberty Caps.
We went the first year we went. It was like a religious experience. It was the best initiation ever.
You value it more.
Oh, it was incredible. We picked about 1 kilogram of wet, and it was pretty good. When it dried, we had about 75 grams, so that was like 30 odd.
Grams.
Yeah, 75 grams dried. We shared it, and it lasted us all year. And they're really incredible. I think they're the one. I don't actually even want to try any other kind of mushrooms because I think. When you're, I don't know, I sort of feel like I belong in this space, and those are the mushrooms I want to like. When you eat local honey, it's like just better that way.
It's actually it is legal and allowed to grow mushrooms in Austria is legal. So I grew a lot of Cubensis McKennae, which is Terence McKenna's custom strain that's mega strong. And those were, in terms of psychedelic mushrooms, I'm not sure. I'm not confident there's a giant difference between different strains of psilocybe genuses, geni, I don't know. There is a big difference between psychedelics, though, or a notable difference between psychedelics in just the character of how they feel. But I feel like you wanted to say something about stepping away from maybe not that world, but the world of certainly marijuana.
Yeah, so it's an interesting little bit more recent, like it's been strange to discover like sobriety from weed, I guess, because I've had a beer here and there, and being in Brighton, I've dipped into the kind of the debauchery a little bit, drug wise.
Yeah,
let my
Brighton's mad place.
add. So yeah, there was a bit of ketamine, and I had some mushrooms at this party the night before last, and I rode the wave perfectly. I had margaritas in cans, like really small cans, and I was sipping away at them.
Yeah,
And I had like about half a gram of
psychedelic
mushrooms.
and ketamine.
Mushrooms and it was actually the most amazing, like not too many mushrooms, and not too much ket either, really, just enough to sort of feel it. And I think that's a mistake a lot of people make, probably like younger people who haven't tried it before. They think they have to go all in on things or take a whole tab of acid, and I think
With
not
psychedelics, it is
so
often
good
to go all in, because psychedelics won't physically harm you in any way. Although I think you're right that people should probably start with a much smaller dose of things in general. I agree with you in general. I also think what's really bad is that people don't bother testing their drugs. And especially
Yeah.
when it comes to things like ketamine, it's very easy to cut that with all kinds of really seriously nasty stuff, and people just would rather not think about it. So
Yeah.
I'm big into harm reduction. I'm big into the liberty to do what you want with your state of consciousness. But I'm also big into being able to function as a human being without anything like that.
Yeah.
So it's a really delicate balance.
It's always, that's what I'm realizing, and I've realized for the last 10 years, is there's always like a kind of balance. You know, I've played devil's advocate in a lot of arguments, just because it's interesting and possible. It's always possible. So there's there's always a balance to these things. I think it's good to have a strict rule if you know that you're a certain way inclined. If you've had a problem with drinking before and it's almost ruined your life, maybe it's worth never drinking again. But that's something that you have to sort of.
What joy are you gonna get? What joy are you gonna get from taking a something like if you have a problem with drinking, like you say, and you feel this urge to drink, this kind of like, well, this would be a lot more fun if I was just drinking, you know. And we all know this with weed as well. Like, oh god, it would be so much more fun to take this shower if I was high or something. Like, you know, it becomes this. You invite it into your life. That's what I always say to people. Just don't invite something like that into your life to be with you all the time. Because if you invite a drug or drink into your life, you're then just going to get to this point where nothing feels quite satisfying, even with it, because the effects go down, your baseline goes up or down, depending on your metaphor, and you just need to have more, and you never quite reach the same place. So I generally think like experimenting is one thing, and inviting it into your life is like the opposite, you know. So I would encourage people to experiment with their consciousness. It's pretty fucked up that we put people in a cage for doing something with their consciousness, experimenting with their consciousness in some way. But
I think you when growing up and taking risks, you don't want to take a risk that has such a likelihood of like permanently like ruining your life. Like that's sort of where the line should be. I think like
when I was young, I used to feel like I'm too young to die. Like when I was like 21, it's like, oh, I'm gonna try some kind of hard drug. Okay, I'm gonna do it once. I'm too young to die anyway, you know. And I didn't die. Okay, but you know, it doesn't mean that you should invite it into your life. Experimenting is one thing.
It's a funny one, and I think maybe this has happened as years have gone on, where parents don't want their child to do what they did, make the mistakes they did, and Absolutely. So they protect them in certain ways. But also, they're not. They might not always be letting their child make the necessary risks to get that out of their system before they're old enough to go to jail, basically.
Well, helicopter parenting. Quite a lot of psychologists, like Jonathan Haidt, have connected helicopter parenting and kids not being allowed to leave the house to go play and stuff like that. I wasn't a kid like that, and I don't think you were either. I think you're my age, aren't you? You're about 28.
Yeah, I'm 29, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm about to turn 28, but we're approximately the same generation. Like,
Yeah.
We grew up in a small town. You grew up in Soham, right?
I grew up in Burwell, Fordham, and then only more recently
You grew up around
Soham.
here in small
But
town,
small
in the
town,
countryside in Britain.
small town vibes.
So you were allowed to go out on your bike and ride around and do whatever, get up to kid things.
Somewhere in between, come back when the lights turn on, and and like now, where you can't even go out without your phone being tracked by your mum.
Right. Yeah. Right.
We're in between those two parts. I think we can see it. What's happening a little bit.
People think that parents have this idea that them and their child are more safe if they're paying attention to them all the time, but that's not true. You're not more safe because you're worrying all the time about your kid. If you're tracking your kid's phone and stuff like that, you're not letting them go out. Saying like the kid is like 15 in my mind or something like that. I'm not saying like a 6-year-old or a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
But, when you're 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, we went out around this small town on our bikes and stuff like that. But a lot of people, our age didn't actually have that experience. And so the parent isn't safer because they're actually just expending more effort than they need to, worrying about the kid. And the kid isn't safer because the kid isn't getting tougher. The kid isn't developing independence and fostering, independence, self-reliance or exploratory, whatever. So if you helicopter parenting your parent, you're making them less safe in the long run. So I don't know what you think about that. It kind of ties to what we were saying about education, I guess. But
yeah, this is it's the video I just watched before we went on this call has touched on a lot of these elements, and I'm going to read one of this, a little quote that I got from it.
Yeah,
so he said freedom is dangerous and must be protected, and he was talking about that, the surveillance on the children sort of thing, and another quote of his is, some people would rather give up essential liberty to gain safety, and that's with the kind of feminist movement, we are moving in that direction of over parenting, I guess. And the last quote of his was, America was only the land of the free when it was the home of the brave, which I think is quite fun.
Well, there you go. A lot of these tie into that idea of if you focus too much on safety, you hurt people as individuals, in a sense.
Yeah.
You hurt people's ability to grow, people's ability to gain independence and to expand their horizons and things like that. And the reason I made a joke that was that's the EU is because the EU would rather, and we see kind of the same thing with to be honest, most of the parties in Britain politically, they would rather take more taxes from people, take more liberties from people in order to theoretically increase safety, including to the point that people are so safe that they're actually less safe because they're not as independent, they're not as confident, they're not as competent or capable, and they lose their sense of dignity. Actually, I think self-dignity to a degree. I'm not just blaming that on the EU, but I just mean giant regulatory structures.
Well, these powerful groups move in dodgy and nefarious ways. They'll use safety as the motivator for the individual, but really it's power that is being bought.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I think that we can see that clear trajectory with a number of things.
Every industry gets jumped on by the capitalists. I think you can see that in the skateboarding industry, the surfing industry, the vegans. It all gets kind of ruined by, there's a lot of vegans that hate all the top brands of vegan like products, because they don't quite get the message. And and the hippie movement was capitalized on as well, with all the mandalas
You mean
being
capitalized on to the point of it feeling hollow and fake compared to what it originally was?
well, even with the green movement, like there's people they're only trying to make money with using people's fear of the world heating up to the point of combustion to sell their solar panels.
Right.
They
Yeah, wind
there's
turbines. The wind
people.
turbines don't work.
It's like with the with money. Like you could talk about it with money in education. Like people only really invest in things to make money on like a big scale. Like there's very
Well,
little like purely charitable, authentic, moral like
I think if people
movements.
had more free money, they would do that. I really do. I think if we had more free money, we would invest in charities and in making the world better in different ways. I know that I would, and I know that I'm not
More
smacking.
free money from the government.
What do you mean?
You said we need more free money.
No. I said if we had more money, we would
Oh,
be if people in general had more disposable income, they would actually be charitable with some percentage of it. And I think we can see that with, like, you can see the trajectory. Like, as people get richer, they actually give more to charity in many cases. I'm talking
yeah.
about the average person. I'm not talking about psychopathic cocaine snorting bankers. um you know But it's also possible to manipulate markets. And the trouble with capitalism is it gives everyone a nice set of incentives. It really does. But it doesn't really account for what happens when you reach a level of those incentives being followed for years and years and centuries, to the point where there's actually, what we have now is one of the most unequal societies in all of human history, really. Because, I mean, think about it. I don't just want to pick on Elon Musk. He's kind of easy to go after, but he's a bit of a strange case, where he actually seems to be more motivated by the idea that he could have a legacy where he's remembered as a savior and a hero, than he is actually motivated by money, I think, for the most part. Although I'm not saying he's stupid with money, but there are people with hundreds of billions of dollars, and there are people who have thousands of dollars of debt. And there are many more of the second group than the first. But I'm not arguing for redistribution. I'm just saying, objectively, diagnostically, we've reached this point of a lot of centralization of resources. And because of big companies in every sector, it's actually quite hard to start a new company that will have that kind of trajectory. So I'm trying to make a nuanced point. I never just say I hate capitalism or I hate communism. Maybe I have said that, but or I'm totally against redistribution in any case. I don't say that. I try and just address what's happening. But like, the incentive to make money is not bad in and of itself. It's actually quite good that everybody has this incentive. What's not good is that there's not as many opportunities as there are people. I think that's the key. Peter Turchin would agree. The historian Peter Turchin, who wrote a book called Secular Cycles, that's about how societies have these peaks and troughs and civil wars and things like that. And he said that one of the key factors, I think there's 3 or 4 key factors. One of them is that there's just not enough opportunities for everyone. That's part of what starts, eventually a revolution, but certainly some kind of issue.
Yeah, that's just a strange point, because I feel like a lot of my opportunities come like from within, like myself, and just sort of thinking about the kind of things that I think are important and sort of acting on those. But maybe I'm kind of missing the point a bit.
I agree. No, I agree. The whole point of this YouTube channel is really to deliver like 2 messages. But I
Yeah,
won't go
yeah.
into that. Well, I actually want to ask you a question because I like what
Go
you
on.
said. Most of your opportunities come from within. It's not that they've been provided to you by society or something. It's that you're thinking, what should I put my energy into? And I think that that comes back to being autodidactic or self-taught in a lot of things, because I don't think that the education system as it is, or the structure of government as it is, really encourages people to do that, to think that way. Instead, they're thinking like, well, what paths am I being given the option to go down? Instead of like, well, where do I find myself drawn towards?
Yeah.
What am I searching for? People aren't searching, they're waiting to be given opportunity.
Yeah, yeah. I think maybe with the use of marijuana, like THC, has sort of brought a much more like inward, outward kind of energy, and sort of can help break you from the mold of waiting for to be dictated. So like maybe even turning back to the whole education thing we started with, where we're told how to think and when to do things, and when the bell rings you do this, and sort of realizing actually it's a balance, because I had a good upbringing and a Christian upbringing that set me some good morals and helped me think about, imagine your neighbor is yourself, how would you like to be treated, this kind of stuff. But also I had the balance of realizing the ignorance of my parents, anti-drug kind of thing, and which is quite funny because I've come back full circle, because I don't think I would want my children smoking weed as it currently is. It's too strong. That's another question. But
Right.
sort of
Yeah.
going against authority and smoking weed and realizing potential from the inside, because you realize, I think you sort of break free of social molds sometimes, and you might act a bit in a bit of a risky delinquent kind of way, but that's really what I loved about smoking weed, is it felt very freeing. And
Hey, I'd like to show you a sketch.
yeah,
I'd like to show you a video.
go on. This is possible.
Yeah, just
Getting
one
techie on
second. This is
the
very, very funny, by the way. It's very funny. It's about, I think it speaks to something in education. Can you see it? Is it on the screen?
I can't see.
Now, there we go.
Head teacher, actually, and that is the sort of, that's the goal, isn't it? I think as aspirational teachers, to get out of teaching and into admin.
Yeah.
Oddly, but he found it quite difficult. I think it's one of the. I think it was at one point ranked in the top 3 most stressful jobs, in between brain surgery and like being a lawyer or something, which just seems a bit strange if it's not paid anywhere near the same as those 2 jobs. But it's because you're dealing with parents and their children. It's just if you're a conscientious person, I think it's very stressful.
For sure, for sure. So your dad was a head teacher and your mum was a teacher as well?
Yeah, they met at Warwick University doing teaching training, and my mum obviously became a mum, so she stopped full-time teaching. She taught piano, and my dad carried on and became a head teacher. And there was a lot of stress in the household revolving around governors' meetings and because you've got the governors are above the head teacher and the parents are below, and so you're not really in charge. It's arguably worse than being a teacher, where you just have to deal with the curriculum and just like not let a child like throw a chair across the room. But like when you're a head teacher, you're having to manage teachers, parents, children, and the governors and the council, and so you're like really sandwiched in the middle of these pressures from both sides. And I think it can be really my dad focused on like a lot of a particular passion project of like doing theatre with the kids, and he managed to get some investment and built a theatre at the school. So that was like a big deal for him, and he would write scripts for like pantomimes, and that sort of gave him the kind of creative outlet. And yeah, I think it helped the kids a lot too, because you would get the misbehaving kids to like get really involved, and often it like really helped them like educated them probably more than the whole curriculum.
Yeah, no. Hey, I was just thinking, something came into my head. You know, there's this pattern recently that there's been some schools opening up to more of an old-fashioned style curriculum, like based on there's two like British education used to be top of the world for two reasons. One was the classical education model, where you'd learn Latin and Greek and you'd learn about our whole civilization while you do that. And by the way, I taught myself Latin to the point where a university let me in to study Latin and Greek. And so it's one of those things where I have this weird double think in my head where it's like, I think people should be taught this. However, I actually taught myself kind of a classical education in many senses. I mean, I went to uni as well, but for 2 years before that, it was my own effort, really. And the other one is the trivium, and the trivium was, God, I always get this wrong. It's logic, grammar, and rhetoric. So it's how to think, how to write, and how to speak, right? And they just got rid of that. And British education since has just gone, you know, like we have some terrible rates now. Is it, you know, and I've seen that there are a lot of schools opening up to this old-fashioned teaching model that's either classical education and or the trivium. Again, let me just say again, the trivium is how to think, how to write, and how to speak. Like, why would we get rid of that?
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? It's I feel like with this, the curriculum is just completely just rubbish, and all you need is the kids to be writing something, thinking something, and all I remember is everyone sort of trying to fight learning, like they're constantly trying to work a way around it. You know, like I forgot my PE kit. I'm, doodling. I cheated in my. I probably shouldn't say this, but I cheated in my English exam. I took a draft of my essay inside my blazer just because I knew I couldn't do it, and that's the only reason I got a C and got into my college. So
wow, hey, I got taught something. I got taught an entire module which was not part of the curriculum, and I sat down to do at Hills Road, at theoretically the best sixth form in the country, best free sixth form in the country.
Yeah.
I got taught a module that didn't exist, and I sat down to do the exam, and 1/3 of the exam was stuff that we never learned.
Yeah.
Right. So
that seems to happen quite a bit. I don't know why.
You said people trying to avoid learning, people trying to fight the process of learning. That's a really, really good way of putting it. What I was thinking as well was it's a bit like we were certainly fighting the process of learning, but as well. Oh God, bloody hell! It slipped my mind what I was about to say.
Do you want to think about?
No. Speak.
Silence.
I'll remember it in a second. It was a good point.
Oh
yes,
yeah.
Sorry. Yes.
Go on then.
We would learn in such a way that it was just tactics for doing the exam. And when that went wrong, like I said, I literally sat down at the exam. 1/3 of the paper was stuff we had never covered.
Yeah, it's bizarre, isn't it? It's I remember lots of people saying that, and then I think what actually happens with the teachers is they're given so much to go through, and the curriculum doesn't take into account all the variabilities, like how quickly the kids will get it. So you get, and that actually does happen with the different the different levels of groups. You had the top set and the bottom set. The bottom set will just focus on the core bits of the test that will get them the most points, and then the advanced questions are sometimes only taught to the top set because they can't get through all the curriculum. And I think that does happen.
It's a memory game. It's a memory game in many cases, anyway.
They might have tried to teach you it, or they were meant to teach you it the day you had a fire test or whatever, and then so your lesson gets cut in half, and the teacher's just like, I've got to go to the next one, otherwise I'm behind. I've got to I've got to keep going, otherwise I won't get to the exam preparation part of
You
my
know, something that's just come
teaching.
into my head. You know how Tony Blair's government in 1997. I mean, I was 0 in 1997, so I don't really remember this. But Tony Blair's government, they were very much for diversity, but they were also for standardization of education. So effectively, what they were doing is saying that they were almost ignoring the fact that there are a diversity of different kinds of people with different interests. So there's one standard of education, and that is that you get a degree and then you do an office job, basically. And it felt like when we were in school, everyone was supposed to be aiming for the same thing. And if you weren't aiming for, 10 GCSEs at A grade and then 4 A levels and then a degree, that wasn't a correct path. Any other path would be an incorrect path by that kind of standardization mindset.
Yeah.
Whereas in actual fact, many of those people from the so-called bottom set were probably very, very clever. They just didn't really get on with the school system, but they'd have made an amazing welder, an amazing carpenter, and they'd be making more money than some of the people who went to get degrees as well. So in other words, society has a valuable set of incentives for them. And there might be people in the middle who, they're not really obsessed to, or people at the very top even, in the top sets of the class, who were not so interested in going through that standardized process, but were highly intelligent and highly curious people. But their curiosity wasn't really encouraged, so they weren't really encouraged to actually learn what media studies is and how it works. Instead, they were encouraged to memorize answers to different questions that might come up and just memorize them.
There's a lot more to life than just reciting knowledge. I think that's obvious if anyone thinks about it.
And it's not thinking. It's not the same thing as thinking.
The amount I learned from, I didn't want to be at home for various reasons whilst I was an adolescent, and I spent a lot of time on the street talking to arguably bad people by like society standards. But I learned a lot by questioning and just talking to them and learning their points of view. And some of these drug users and street people have quite a nuanced way of looking at life, and were actually quite intelligent. One of them worked on the cathedral as a stonemason before he fell into his issues. And another was like a very talented musician who was on stage at one point with Coldplay. These people had like a lot of knowledge, and a lot more skill was based on how they communicated this knowledge than the knowledge itself. Which I thought was quite, it was really refreshing to be around real people who were genuine. Like the fact that they were genuine and able to accept their failings, like almost more than the kind of a lot of not modern, but like a lot of visibly successful people would hide their problems and lie about their alcoholism. And it kind of works to a certain degree, because obviously you can see that these if you're too honest and too real, you become like maybe unlikable. If you just constantly go with your like whims, you're like, well, I want to do drugs, so fuck the wedding. That's sort of how society. But there was a definite balance that I realized when talking to these people. I was like, this just feels so much more real, hanging out with these people who have like real problems, and I can actually help them by giving them like 50p, and
that was me at university a little bit too, in a slightly different way. Most of the people I ended up being really good friends with at university were people who were creative in some way, even if it was not an artistic way, but they had a creative lifestyle in some sense where, like I met someone who made his money buying used RAM, like computer memory, and then he figured out a process he could put it through to sort of melt it all down and extract the tiny bits of gold that are in every stick of RAM. Wow. And you would get hundreds of these old RAM sticks that don't actually really work with anything anymore, melt them down, and he'd end up with like a few grams of gold, and he could sell that for like a month's rent and partying.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
university, guys. You know.
Like there's a entrepreneurial spirit on all levels. I think maybe there's like a bit of a bell curve where like if you're really poor, you're like more entrepreneurial than the middle class, and then you're like really
Yeah,
rich, then you're like more than the middle class again, because there's
you've
like
got the
a
resources to be, and the poor people have the incentive to
yeah,
make money to get out
they
of
have the
wherever.
drive. But I have thought about hiding my money from myself to give myself more drive, because it
I
always
do
seems
that.
to end up that I need to have no money to want to get money.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying the time I'm having out here and um, being away from Soham and away from like the things.
Civilization.
Yeah, yeah. Even though I am still in it, it's really anyone out there who's looking for a change in their mental state. It's really about where you are physically.
Yeah.
That's can be a big catalyst for change, as well as you know getting out of your routine. Even if your routine is a lack of routine, like being in the house that I'm in, there's certain things that I've structured my day around, which have meant that I could keep things going. Bit of physical stuff in the morning, a coffee, hydration, fruit in the morning, fueling your brain in the right way, and all the chemicals that run through your body is
Hmm.
probably the most important after
Yeah.
sleep. And
Sleep.
then
Yeah, I was gonna say sleep.
going
God,
out
I can't believe I used to not
into
sleep
nature.
sometimes.
Yeah, you're a bit of a what's it?
Bit of a
Uh,
night owl, let's say.
that's it. That's it.
But
I was gonna.
I used to totally, when I was like 21, 22, I could stay up for like 2 days and I'd feel fine. You know what? I missed like 2 hours of sleep the other night, and the next day I'm like, I can't do anything. I can't make a video. Like, you
Yeah,
know, anything I tried to do, I ended up just feeling depressed. I'm like, Jesus Christ, is this
it's
the
quite
difference between
strange.
22 and 27?
I think you've got. I think it's something. It's metabolism, but it's also like cellular integrity. Like your if you think like we're worse and worse at healing after 25, so I think you can't recover from the damage of lack of sleep quick enough. So you need to give yourself more days. I used to think that old people were like thinking way too far in advance. I was such a in the now kind of kid that if my mum told me we're doing this at the weekend, I'd just forget by the time we got there, and it would be a horrible surprise that we were doing this thing that she warned me about, because I
I
just
was like that.
I couldn't think that far ahead, and I guess I hadn't worked on my memory enough, and yeah, but yeah, we need to like heal and give ourselves more time as we get older. I think the 25 to 30 is very eye opening. I think time to sort of as you're realizing your mortality and your decline
Yeah.
in everything. I felt a bit strange. Like I passed the premium point in my life. But that's just if I let it happen. I think you can keep moving
Yeah.
and stay fresh, and yeah,
You can
quitting
keep learning
weed has been
too.
strange.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
That has been it's been great and very revealing. I've realized what parts of me were just using weed as an excuse to be the way that I already had kind of trained myself to be, you know. And
Yeah.
it's been a bit. I was hoping that all my problems would go away, like, but it's more that I'm now able to focus more consistently on improving these things rather than just like um, running away from them with a joint. So there you go.
Sure. Yeah. 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 No, I know what you mean. There's something about a habit that's very comforting because you've done it before and it was nice or fine. Um,
Yeah,
do you think that people get into the habit of fighting learning through what we were talking about with education? And do you think that people maintain the habit of fighting against learning that they got from school because the school system is not set up really for different kinds of people. It's only really set up so that some very narrow definition of a person will go through it successfully. And as a
Yeah,
result,
maybe.
people spend their lives resisting learning. Whereas actually, you want to keep learning. Of course, you do. Even if you
That's
don't
it.
want to learn in the way that school. Like when I learned Spanish, I learned Spanish by living in Argentina for the most part. Like I didn't learn it from. I didn't learn it in the same way that I learned Latin, where I learned Latin from a book. I learned Spanish by people yelling "Che boludo" across the street at me and stuff like that. And having to interact with people. There's real adrenaline in those situations as well, because you're like, shit, I've got to communicate. How do I say this? Whatever.
Yeah, I think also people, they don't generally people don't like change. So maybe yeah, they are kind of continuing on that mode. I think it does damage people. If you've had a bad school experience, you're not going to want to pursue any further education. But sometimes, yeah, there's always the opportunity for more knowledge. But it's not. It's also not necessary. I think sometimes you can like get caught up in all the learning, and I feel like I'm doing that when I'm watching YouTube videos but I'm not. It's not very practical in a lot of ways. It's
If you don't embody it, it doesn't count.
yeah, and
You forget
it's a
it.
distraction. Like maybe like having conversations like we've had today is probably fortified the last video I watched just before we went live more than I could have with any other video I watched yesterday or something. But
Well, there's actually two kinds of memory. There's two, or I think there's even more than this, but there's at least two. And one has to do with facts that you can recall and sentences that you remember, whatever. And the other one is procedural memory that's about doing stuff. So, for example, I can play anything I say anything, more or less anything on guitar just from hearing it. Like,
yeah.
And that's to do with procedural memory, where I just associate certain finger movements with certain sounds. Even the key, I don't always get the key right first time, but I can get it very quickly. And I can hear a third, and I can hear a fifth, and I can hear a fourth. I can hear a sixth very much. So I can hear a seventh chord. I can hear what notes are being played. I can hear modes to a degree as well, like where you use like weird notes that shouldn't necessarily be in the scale. And like a lot of that is just tens and tens of thousands of hours of playing guitar. If someone told me, here's a 5-second trick of how to play guitar from ear, all you have to do is spend 50,000 hours learning playing guitar. 5-second trick done. But that's just not what people are looking for, because I think we've been resisting learning as a culture because we had literally an authoritarian school system that's based on the army.
Yeah. And people get stuck in their ways as well. They don't necessarily they become quite defensive with new information. They'd rather, if you've learned something with more poignant reason, when someone comes along with like a new idea that maybe questions that, like I think I found a lot of people, depending on how you say it, how you approach it, they don't often like it, and they'll like refer back to their like mechanisms to sort of defend their position they established at some point in their life.
Yes, yeah, definitely, especially if it's a comforting position and a convenient position for them. I think that's have you seen this thing? And I'm about to touch on an extremely controversial issue here.
Yeah.
Before I do, I'd just like to say that I am a kind of migrant to Argentina. I'm not against that. I have friends from Pakistan. I have a really good friend from most major European countries, and indeed a lot of countries outside of Europe. But there is this pattern that people have noticed where people vote for the Liberal Democrats, who are pro more immigration, until the point that the government decides to send lots of undocumented immigrants to their town, and then the town turns reform.
Yeah.
because people don't want to believe that there's a load of people don't want to think that they're being prejudiced by thinking that there's crime happening in other parts of the country, but then when it happens to them, they go straight to the far right. You know?
Yeah, I guess there's a imbalance in, you know, idealism, and people jump on the people's idealism to make things happen, and then I guess the reality hits, doesn't it? So yeah, it's a bit yeah, so a lot of people are operating from their safe space, and then they realize, I guess, that it's not always, if they want to walk to the shop at like midnight, they might want to put on like a burqa or something. I just want to say
a high vis jacket.
I like my caveat is, before we talk any more about this, is I am black, so anything that I say, well, I don't identify as black, so
like LEG.
Yeah, only more black than that.
Okay, fair enough.
But an interesting point. My nan used to work in Soho, and even back then, London was scary enough for her to decide that she had to act crazy and run through Soho at night to get home. Like she'd scream and run her way home, so that no one would come near her. And at one point, yeah, she was, you know, my nan's like 80 or something now, so, but and she's lovely, just to add that in case she sees it. But she once, like one of the times she was running home screaming, like a policeman stopped her, and she like just stopped and said, you know, he was like, are you okay? And she was like, yeah, I'm fine. And then just carried on like, wah! Like screaming and running. So that's a funny little story there. But also, it's funny, but it's also
like 1970.
Yeah, probably something like that, 1970, 80. But maybe it was just more generally like crime in general happens at that time.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Soho has always had this reputation of being a dodgy place. One of my favorite albums is called Solo in Soho by Phil Lynott, the guy from Thin Lizzy. The boys are back in town, that band. Amazing album, Solo in Soho. I actually was going to release a load of songs that's Solo in Soham.
Nice.
yeah. Soham, if you don't know, is our town where we live. It's a very small place in the United Kingdom. Most famous for having a serial killer, unfortunately. So whenever I tend to tell people I'm from Cambridge, but I'm from a town outside of Cambridge, really.
What do you think these bollards are about? There's just so many.
This is the ruins of a civilization, sir. You're standing on an archaeological site.
A Neolithic
penises. Built by the Druids. Yeah. You know, I went to Stonehenge on the summer solstice, but I didn't quite make it. You know, sadly. But I'd quite like to go again. I went when I was a kid. I was listening to Metallica for the first time. I listened to For Whom the Bell Tolls next to Stonehenge.
Nice.
I mean, mind you, there's like people in high-vis jackets everywhere, and there's like safety notices, and you have to park like a mile away. So maybe it wasn't as dramatic as you might be thinking. I wasn't standing in the stone circle, like anything like that. But no, I mean.
Just having a look at my notes to see if we've touched on quite a lot of good things here. Wisdom Warriors, check that out if you're into your.
That's the channel you were watching before.
That's the channel I was watching.
Those are some good quotes, really good quotes.
Yeah, he's good. He's you know, he looks at a lot of sort of ancient like philosophy stuff and the classics basically, and uses that and some good Christian knowledge.
Well, a lot of my channel is based on a couple of things. One of the big, I mean, everyone should watch my previous video because it's the best video so far. Magic Tech, how magic inspired big tech, and it's really about how there's a continuation of what people want out of what they can imagine between magic and technology. It's just that we can actually do it now. And so we're basically building a magical, we're making the dreams of our ancestors, which are expressed via magic, into reality through technology. Even us right now, we're doing something that scientists considered impossible basically forever until the 1800s. It was thought to be impossible to have action at a distance, but you and me are talking over many miles in a different
Yeah.
city, basically. So we are doing something that science used to think was impossible, and it was thought of as being magic. And so my last video is about this. You can just watch that. I won't repeat it all.
Almost, almost got run over.
Are you close to Brighton now?
I'm just walking to the coastline. Maybe it will get a bit loud, or you might lose signal. But we're probably. I've got 17% battery, but I'm going to try and cross the road and give you a good view here of the coastline.
Sure. I think I just want to. I want to bring up some other stuff? I've got a little list here. I mean,
what are your plans with? Let me ask you a question. What are your plans with this podcast series and generally, you know, what are your plans going forward in your life as well?
Well, it's a good question.
What are your hopes and dreams?
The channel, I see the channel in general. I'll talk about the podcast in a sec, but the channel is supposed to be just like an archive of thoughts. And for that reason, like, I'm not particularly bothered about view counts or anything like that. Especially as, to be honest, and I try not to look at that. I try not to look at the analytics. I don't think there's any point. I think it's almost like a psyop by YouTube to discourage creators. Really, this channel is an archive, and I don't actually really care who watches it or who doesn't. And I think that's part of actually why the quality is consistent and there's not like fucking adverts everywhere or anything like that. And it's the same thing with the website. But you asked me about my plans in life. Well, obviously, so Carolina, my Argentinian girlfriend, is going to come over and visit soon, which is amazing. Okay. So you'll probably meet her actually.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. And then I'm gonna go there for the winter, at least for the winter. I'm trying to get a remote job in tech. I'm very close to that. I've been doing a very, very long interview process for this job, and then it's a remote job, and it will pay enough that I can live partially in Argentina. I can come back here for a bit. I can maybe go somewhere else. Maybe Carolina and me can go traveling around South America. I'd like to see more countries. I'll keep making stuff just because I have to, in a way. Like, if I don't make stuff, I feel spiritually dead, to be honest, a little bit. And, well, you know, that's basically my plan. And the podcast itself, I don't have any giant aspirations for it, except it will grow with the channel, and people who want to talk to me have a way of talking to me. Sometimes I say something provocative on the channel, you know, like I said that there are no left-wing economists. that was a provocation where I was hoping that someone would actually message me and say, well, I'm a left-wing economist, and then the podcast is just a way for me to chat to them. And so there's not any giant plan about it. We'll see where it goes. That
will serve you well. Yeah, stick to the authentic you, which is, you know, just exploring conversation in general with whoever and your friends, and I'm excited to see Greedy G from the Savage Streets Records Massive, where we met actually. So he brought us together. That'd be fun to see his interview.
He did bring us together. Do you remember the first time we met?
I do. Just outside of the studio, which good old Peter's house, God rest his soul.
Rest in peace.
And I mean, that was quite interesting. I was excited by the fact that there was like another kind of cerebral, creative and musician, because no one else played an instrument, and you came through like, I'm in a band and this and that, and you know, and I
Yeah.
was like, okay, cool. Like, there's actually a musician here.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
we
yeah,
could,
yeah. That's right. I
yeah,
remember going there, and he was delivering some lyrics. So he's like rapping, you know, in his characteristic, very gravelly, very aggressive way from
yeah,
his first record. Have you listened to both of his albums? Because I'm really impressed with them, and I really love the shift in tone from the really aggressive first one to the very chill second one. It's
yeah.
awesome.
I haven't heard the. I mean, I've heard the new sort of themes of the new album. I haven't heard anything established, but yeah, no, it's really cool. He captured that kind of, you know, growing up with all this kind of dark pub culture stuff going on in Soham, and
Generational trauma, he calls it.
yeah, and I think it actually is quite. Even though it's very individual to him and his experience, it's something that a lot of kids are probably going through.
It's universal. Yeah, it feels that way.
Yeah,
It feels
yeah.
like an archetype, doesn't it?
Because the whole cocaine use and pub culture has had a big hit. You know, like it's almost being propped up by cocaine. I think because loads of people are stopping drinking and pubs are falling apart basically. But like the combination of like the cocaine, I think, is quite it's rampant. You know, I think places
People
like
were
Soho.
openly doing cocaine on the bar in a certain pub in Soham during the COVID pandemic. I remember just the owner, effectively the owner of the pub, like trying to sell it and cutting up on the bar. But there, Soham has no
Yeah,
police station, so we're a kind of little anarchist town, to be honest. Especially back then during COVID, it was quite a wild place to live. It was mental.
I think so.
I loved
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I was 21, 22, 23, 24. You know, I had a lot of fun, you know, but some of it regrettable, some of it not. But some can be quite anarchic, really, just because there's no police station here. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I was sort of forced homeless at that point because I couldn't stay in the house, and my mum was really scared about COVID, so I lived in my car, and that was probably one of the best experiences I ever had, having like ultimate freedom and quite a lean diet as
Mhm.
well, and lots of exercise, and it was great. It was a good time.
I think experiences like that, like after university, my friend Ned just effectively showed up on my door and was like, "Hey mate, do you want to drive to Scotland?" And I was like, "Well, I do actually have a week off work right now. Should we go?" And we drove all the way up to Scotland. We camped at Loch Ness. We
Oh
went
wow,
right the way around the perimeter of Scotland, right the way around the whole country. We went to the northernmost point. We went all around Scotland just spontaneously
wow,
in his car, slept in his car parked on top of a mountain, you know, right handbrake, here, take promethazine, let's go, just leave, and then wake up and we'd be driving again. We drove all around Scotland. Camping at Loch Ness was cool. I'll tell you
wow.
what else we did after the podcast, and well, it was really wild, but it was such a liberating thing, and the GPS wasn't working, so I had a map. And I was like, right, we seem to be on the B315. The map says we have to turn here if we want to get to you know, Glasgow or whatever. And I tell you what, that was so exciting. It kind of gave me this sense of like, for some reason, that we were in a car, obviously, but it gave me this sense that we were on horseback, you know, navigating through the Scotch wilderness or
Mm.
something, and you know, in the past. Not that it was the past, but that this was a universal kind of experience that you could connect to the past. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and I think it was a little echo of that kind of true freedom that you're talking about.
Mm.
This was 2022, so just after COVID. But yeah, we drove to Scotland spontaneously.
That's pretty good. And I always find the spontaneous uh, events of my life have always been the best because there's a lack of expectation and just like you have to
Hard to
put
be
a bit of
disappointed.
energy into it, and it just I don't know. It's I love spontaneity, and yeah, it's good. I think I've lived with a lot of it, and I'm probably getting to the point in my life where I need a bit more like structure and planned stuff to really make things happen. But yeah, I've
Yeah.
enjoyed my 29 years on this planet, and I look forward to
Hopefully
making
a
it.
lot more.
Yeah, hopefully another 20,
You know?
29 years. But yeah, I love that kind of going to Scotland is that's quite a long way, isn't it? It's a long
This
drive.
idea that, sorry, just to interrupt, it is
You're
a long
right.
way to drive. It was many hours. We were driving non-stop for like 4 days to get all the way around Scotland.
Yeah.
That was when the Queen died. We came back and the Queen had died and we hadn't heard about it.
Wow.
You know, because we'd been out and about.
How refreshing to not hear the news for a bit.
Well, yeah, it was that was strange, actually. That was really strange because it was the Queen. The Queen was the Queen forever, as far as I was concerned, you know.
True,
and as far as
true.
my parents are concerned, my parents were born in the 60s. The Queen was the Queen longer than that. But anyway, what I wanted to say was, sometimes I think that need we have for structure is partially psyoped by the fact that our education system is based on the army. Partially. Like, sometimes you do need to be disciplined, you need to show up every day and do what you have to do. But this idea that we shouldn't be constantly exploring, we shouldn't be, you know, all that stuff, innovating and thinking things through in new ways and stuff like that. I think that's partially something that we've accidentally all learned as a side effect of having such a structured system of education that treats everyone like they're the same, and actually they're not the same. You know, like the Labour Party in the 1990s, early 2000s were saying we need more diversity in terms of where people are from, but they almost have color blindness. They almost have complete blindness for the fact that there are diversity of personality types and diversity of different skills. You know, like everyone should want to get 10 GCSEs, 4 A levels, and 1 degree. You know, but that's not for everyone. Like, come on, that's crazy.
It's always, like we said earlier, it's always like a balance of one and the other, and there's necessary structure, and there's also lots of good in breaking the structure. So, but you're right in that the structured elements of your life could be very simple, but if you want to achieve like a quantifiable result, you do have to unfortunately get quite organized.
Yeah, you have to be consistent. Like I said, with playing guitar for like 50,000 hours, that was partially discipline and partially my desire to play guitar all day, every day, to deal with my complex emotions of being a teenager and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man. Hey, I think we should probably wrap it up in the next few minutes. I'm worried about your phone dying.
Yeah, it'd be funny if it just cut off, but I've got 11%, so we're all right. But
Okay.
yeah, what could we touch on to finish it? Shall I look at my notes to see if there's anything I wanted to touch on? So we had talked about stopping smoking weed and yeah.
Well, I've titled the stream. I've put the title of the stream as Auto-didacts versus Education.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So we've got the education.
So if there's any story you want to tell about maybe teaching yourself something, or maybe your thoughts about education, that could be quite a good way to finish off.
Right.
If you want.
Yeah. So things. It really does come from within, doesn't it? All the kind of real learning. And if there was any kind of message for anyone watching this, it would be, you know, to allow for that self reflection. You can be your own teacher. You know, it might feel a bit strange at first, but to question yourself and to answer and to those are some of the most eye-opening, and it's been one of the best attributes I think I've developed, is being able to really honestly review how I'm thinking and feeling, and reflecting on my own situation. You know, applying a lot of balance and being your own sort of devil's advocate it can be its own ailment, but it's also like very necessary to really feel both sides of the coin. I think, it might come with its own detriment. You might be just lost in the source of constant wandering and self-analyzing. There's an equal balance with that. You do need to have convictions and go for it, and but you also need to be able to review your own shortcomings as well. So
Yeah.
it's really, I think a balance is always good to try and achieve, and just to remember that there is always a balance. It's when you get too convicted on things, it can restrict you in a lot of ways. But I understand why people do it. It's about safety and security, and it helps you have an identity too. And I've struggled with not belonging and not having a tribe because I am so questioning all the time. And I think
Yes.
it's been a positive and a negative, and I'm just willing to accept it. Really, I think accepting where you're at and the reality of where you're at is really a good step for progressing.
I would
And
just add two things
yeah,
to that. And one
go
is
on.
that
Yeah,
I totally see what you mean about questioning yourself and discussing points internally and stuff like that. I think that people have this idea that someone smart is someone who has all the answers memorized specifically because of our education system.
mm,
And two, I think people have the idea that learning is kind of like taking an exam. Whereas actually, if you go down a YouTube rabbit hole because you're super interested in something, you are learning.
mm,
Like say you want to learn about the stock market because you want to make more money, even you're learning.
mm,
Of
yeah,
course, you're learning. You want to learn how to play a song on piano or something, you're learning. Obviously, like that one's a bit more obvious, maybe. But even if you go into like a UFO tangent, UFO rabbit hole, and you start reading about different sightings, and then you hear about people's arguments against why that's real, and then other people saying, physicists start talking about, well, it's technically possible, there could be aliens out there. It could just be that they've got tech that we don't know exists, or they're communicating in a way that we haven't think. You're learning. You're
yeah,
learning. If you're going down a rabbit hole about aliens or psychedelics or something, you're definitely learning. You're definitely
yeah,
learning. But people
yeah.
think
I,
that
I
learning
think
is
so.
exam.
And there can be. It doesn't have to be for the sake of any kind of result. It can just be for the sake of interest. But I guess if you're really trying to learn something that's going to affect your life, it has to have a bit of has to have like a practical use, I guess, at some level. But there's also, you learn through a lot of what seemingly like throwaway experiences will end up being really formative parts of your life. Like skateboarding, it doesn't really have any real world application, but it does if you think about the sort of the macro elements of like trial and error. You know,
Mm-hmm.
picking and understanding your own style and your place in the community, and
Persistence and humility.
yeah, and
Yeah.
operating in communities correctly. You can't just skateboard around old people; they will fall over in shock. But there's
Mhm.
yeah, you really do have to just go out there and grab life. I think a lot of young people are stuck indoors and on their phones, and
And they want to do
uh,
it perfectly first time. They want to prepare and prepare and prepare and prepare until
yeah,
they can do it perfectly. Something I realized that was very, very important is that it is 100% okay and a good idea to fly the plane while you're building it. To fly the plane while you're building it. Look at my early
yeah,
videos. My early videos are just like
yeah,
screen record. Okay, I just want to talk about this because it's so bloody dystopian. Like it's not the same kind of polished thing that tells a story like my newest videos. It's just chatting shit about stuff that was
yeah.
disturbing, like
And
AI
that is truly how you learn, is like being willing to take the risk of being wrong, and then learning from, if you went through life everything being perfect and you being prepared for everything, I don't think it's just not possible. You wouldn't learn anything without mistakes. So
Well,
yeah,
among coding communities, there's a saying, and entrepreneurs, there's a saying that you haven't failed, you've succeeded in learning what not to do.
yeah,
You found out some avenue that just doesn't work.
yeah. sometimes that does help me to like when someone's trying to get me to do something for them. I say like, well, what should I not do? Because that's like more important to not get it wrong than it is to do it perfectly. But
Don't
like,
get it catastrophically wrong.
yeah,
Exactly. Like, I mean, just going back to what we were talking about with drug culture and harm reduction, you need to know that you 100% should never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, take opiates or benzodiazepines when you've had a lot to drink, because you could die. You
yeah,
have to know
true,
that. You can't not know that.
yeah,
You need to know that, and that it's not a good dose to take, 400 milligrams of, like, I don't know, amphetamine
yeah,
or something. Like, that will kill you. That will possibly give you a
yeah.
heart attack.
You need to know how deep the water is under the bridge before you jump off. But yeah, so yeah, you've got to think like, worst case scenario, does this permanently impact my life? And then you know whether you need to do more research or know more before taking that risk. That is
Yeah.
that's a difficult part of life, but you could argue that for the majority, people don't take risks, and
No.
we are in that safety kind of like world
Culture.
where, yeah, and that's yeah, and it's fair enough, but it's we need that bravery for freedom's dangerous and it must be protected,
Freedom, exactly. But that's it. I think I'll finish on this. If you've got,
yeah,
unless you want to add something, and that is that
no, that's good.
freedom involves you can't really have full freedom without also having people who are responsible enough to use it wisely, because otherwise you end up with what we have now, which is a kind of bureaucracy that wants to make everything illegal that could possibly hurt someone at any point ever, maybe,
Yeah,
and then you lose your dignity as a human being at that point, actually, because to be a human being is to be an animal on this planet, and to be an animal on this planet is to be playing the Darwinian game, and that means that you have the responsibility to look out for your own survival and the survival of your genes, I guess, to some degree. And we have this weird illusion now that we don't have to play that game anymore, and we 100% do. Look at the birth rates, for God's sake. Like,
yeah. I mean, look at life satisfaction. In places without aid, the places that have now then received aid have become less satisfied because they're more ill and there's more longevity of these problems, and so we're in a strange time, and we've got to be careful where we move
I think because we're so materialistic, and I mean materialistic in the sense that, like, everything is just atoms and statistics and stuff. Like, the government actually believe that if they can do whatever they need to do to make the GDP line go up, like in Boris Johnson's case, who campaigned on controlling immigration and keeping it sensible, he times 10. He made the immigration numbers times 10 because he wanted to make it look like the economy was still growing during COVID and just after that. Just to make the GDP line look like it's going up, even though everyone's quality of life was going down, and they weren't checking.
Bizarre.
I actually think it's really racist.
Oh no!
It's really racist to think that there are no bad people from other countries in the world. So of course, if you're not checking who is actually coming in, you're going to get some bad people who want to take advantage of frankly the kindness and openness of the policy.
I knew this would happen. I've walked down by the water and we've lost a bit of signal, but I can hear you now. But this sea is beautiful. I'm sorry, I missed what you said, but
no, it's okay. It
should
doesn't
we leave
matter.
it there?
We should leave it there. We've gone over time. I think this is going to be a new average length. I thought that these things would be 45 minutes to an hour, but they seem to be 1 hour 45 or 2 hours. But that's okay. I'm perfectly happy with that.
I think that's good. Just go with it, and it's good practice as well when Joe Rogan invites you on, I guess.
Yeah. Oh Jesus!
Lots of love from the South Coast here.
Yeah.
And I wish you all the best, man.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your trip. When are you back here?
Trying to run up the hill to get a good like bit of signal for the last.
Running up that hill.
There we
All right,
go.
man. I just want to ask, when are you back in Soham?
Beautiful, lovely. Sun's come out.
Yeah.
Get walking, get out there.
Yeah, I actually will do exactly that. I feel like can you still hear me? I just wanted to ask when you're back in Soham.
Yeah, I've got you. I'm back in Soham on the 15th. Yeah, my mum's birthday.
All right, very nice.
So I'll see you then.
See you around then. Yeah.
Sounds good, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for the call.
Yeah. All right. Enjoy the rest of your trip. If you go to Brighton, have fun. Stay safe.
Will do. Yeah. Thank you, man.
All right.
Bless up.
Ciao.
Good evening and good night.